I just got the joke. It's called iRobot because the bad guy's an I. Very, very punny, Atari. Very punny. Reaperman here, and today I would like to talk a little bit about the Atgames Legends Flashback, and this particular one is running custom firmware from a thread over at Atariage.com, and I will link to that in the description box below. So the deal here is that the Atgames Legends Flashback in stock form is kind of a spectacular deal. It's $25 to $40 worth of kind of drugstore grade gaming. You're not going to find this in a lot of places that sell actual video games. But you're going to find it just about everywhere else, every bedding store and probably candle shop, things like that. It is a little EMU console, of course. It's got a decent selection of games from a surprising variety of companies. It outputs 720p, comes with two kind of Genesis style controllers, 6-button style. And on the back here it's got a USB for power in, and it's got HDMI, of course, and then it's got your SD card for all of the fun later on. And now this Atariage firmware, this works with the Legends flashbacks here, and I believe some of the Atari flashbacks, I believe it's Flashback 9 and above. Turns out they're all about the same thing inside, so there's a slight variation of what you download, but it all works about the same from what I understand. So the Atariage firmware basically turns these things from already a good deal into pretty much the ultimate stocking stuffer, and that's what I'm building this one here up for, is I'm going on vacation next week, and I thought I'd build one up and give it away as a present to some friends that I'm going to see. And what differentiates this from a lot of the other emulation consoles and handhelds that we've been seeing lately, they're primarily focused on pretty much the same games. So they're focused on Neo Geo, Capcom Power System, getting Dreamcast and N64 running at full speed. That's what those things differentiate themselves on. Not so much this one. This one has a bit of a focus on pre-crash and oddball games. That's where most of the effort on this project is gone. And this is where you're going to find your Atari 800, your ColecoVision, your Neo Geo Pocket, even your Pokemon Mini. So it's going to be that kind of stuff. Also, the arcade section is much more diverse than the usual, 1991 to 1996 that you usually see in those other handhelds. This is going to go back, obviously, much farther. And Vindicators here is a great example of just the love that's gone into this project. If you look at the kind of custom bezel they have going for this thing, it's absolutely spectacular. This is much farther than the last time I checked on this project, maybe back in May. So yeah, this thing's moving very fast. And if you look for problems on this system, you're definitely going to see them, and there just aren't enough eyes to fix them all. There's too much stuff getting added too fast. But yeah, it probably isn't too hard to get involved in the helping sort things out, the designing art for the background and the configuring controls, all that kind of stuff. Most everything pretty much runs, but yeah, you try 20 games, you're going to find some issues on some of them in here. So yeah, check out that link in the description if you'd like to get involved, if you got about $25 sitting around. Another thing to point out with these is while they come with two controllers that are great for all the games down here, you will want to use a little bit better Sega Genesis controller, one with a mode button on it. And the reason is that mode button up here also functions as the menu button on the console. So if you use these controllers here, you're going to have to keep hitting this button on the console, where you can just keep smacking the mode button to pull the menu up on this particular controller here. So that is a tremendous bonus. Anyway, let's get this thing up on the big screen and have a look at what it can really do. And here we are up on the big screen. To try this out with today, I've got the big old Super Stick, because when you've got a big old Super Stick, of course you get it out every chance you get. So this is, let's get out feature games. Let's look at all of the systems this thing can do. So we got 2600, 5200, 7800, 800, and family. Atari Lynx, Bandai Wonderswan, ColecoVision. Yes, there are some karaoke titles. Yes, they are kind of old man related like everything else. We've got some Linux ports, and these are kind of native things that run on the system. They're kind of neat. Got Cave Story in there, and the thing with a bunch of V's. We got Lutro, Magnavox Odyssey, and Television. We've got some Media Center stuff. We've got Turbografx. This does do Turbografx CD, indeed. We've got Nintendo Entertainment System. Looks like we've got some Game & Watch simulators. We've got Nintendo Game Boy Advance, Game Boy Color, Pokemon Mini. Got Super Nintendo, Virtual Boy, Pico 8, the imaginary console, theoretical console, I guess. We got Game Gear, Sega Genesis, Master System, SG-1000, ZX Spectrum, or ZX Spectrum, however you want to go about doing that. We got Neo Geo Pocket, Sony PlayStation. Haven't tried this one. Doubt it's any good because the system probably doesn't have enough power to run that. We got TIC 80, which seems to be something I've never tried before. And that's what we've got. So let's roll back and have a look at some of these. Let's start with Atari Lynx. Now, Atari Lynx is a pretty good system here. A lot of great arcade ports on Atari Lynx. And unfortunately, because they're the other Atari, we don't seem to see Atari arcade games from this era really anywhere else. They're not in any of the Atari collections these days because it's the Atari Games half of Atari. They went the other way in one of the splits here. So let's try... What can we do that's fun and quick here? Let's do Stun Runner. This is actually a spectacular version of Stun Runner, actually. Okay, and she's coming up here. Takes a bit. Alright. Welcome, Stun Runner, indeed. Okay, now if you're familiar with this game, you know it's all about shooting down a tube at like 900 miles an hour. The arcade version was all polygons. Kind of surprised to see that it's not in this system in the arcade section, but I don't think it is. This, of course, is not polygons because the Atari Lynx is, well, it's the Atari Lynx, but this is still one of the best, if not the best, versions of it. Oh, look, 0.6 of a second to spare. And yes, these games do look a little funny blown up on the big screen, and wow, am I ever sitting in front of a big screen on this. Yep, still in the tutorial phases here. I'm going to shoot through these guys. So the thing that I've been screwing up is that you really want to be on the outside of all the corners. And you do want to hit all of these boost pads. Yee-hoo indeed. Whoop. Boom, cross the finish line, 0.3 of a second to spare. Look at that. Okay, enough of this game. In fact, probably enough of this system for the demo here. So let's go back. And to do that, I guess the easiest way is to find one of these home shortcuts and hit that. And then it'll take you back home in a second here after this bit of black screening. So the next thing that we can check is, let's check some Turbografx. Kanye's favorite system, if you will. Doop doop. And there we go. And yes, I have tried Castlevania in it, and yes, it at least gets far enough to get up to that unskippable intro, but that's not really my jam, and I haven't had the patience to actually sit down and try this game on this. Let's see here. Do we have Super Star Soldier? Not handy, so we're just going to go with Soldier Blade. Adding favorites is pretty easy too. You just hit the C button on the little intro screen that's supposed to come up with the description of the game. Now the TurboGrafx actually seems to run pretty darn well on this. Some of the systems not so much. 32X used to run fairly well, but the earlier versions of this kind of firmware had a bit of an aggressive overclock, and I guess some people had some trouble with that, so they've dialed that back, and that kind of hurt the 32X compatibility a little bit, because I remember I used to play Virtua Racing on this thing. I think it was way back when I had to add it myself. So yeah, this is indeed TurboGrafx doing TurboGrafx things. And let's get over to a little bit more interesting system. At least more interesting to me. Let's get over to Atari 800 here. Now this really isn't meant to compete with any kind of a high-end FPGA system or flash card or anything like that. This just is not really up to the task. It is, however, an awful lot of fun for 25 bucks. So this is pretty good for a stocking stuffer. And I say 25 bucks, but you actually have to shop around pretty good to find one of these for 25 bucks. You don't have to shop around that hard to find one for like 40 bucks. Now, in this system, since I'm giving this one away as a gift, as you can see, I've put my game up in the corner there. So, so the people I'm giving it to will get a chance to play that. Actually, let's check out Yoomp, because that's more of a known quantity for people. This is, of course, a very popular homebrew game on the system that came out, oh gosh, 5 years ago now or so. I suppose it'll give us a date on here when it comes up, but it's pretty nice. It's got stereo pokey music, which this emulator does take advantage of. And this game is all about not falling down the holes in the wall of this tube here. So yeah, this is Yoomp. Fairly close to how I remember it. Now there are some games that it seems a little disappointing that they don't quite work right. I've noticed Blue Max, which is probably my favorite shmup on the system, doesn't seem to start up right. I'll have to check and see if I can maybe find a different version of it. I think it's running an NTSC version of the system. I can't find any system settings. Well, I can't find any settings that let me impact what kind of system it is, whether it's a PAL or NTSC system. Now they may be around, there may be some like configuration stuff around in there. I had to dig down, and adding a game is pretty straightforward. I had to dig into some text files for that. And basically you specify the name of the game, you specify the sorting order for it, you specify kind of a box art graphic. And of course I had to make that up for my game. Okay, so this is probably enough Yoomp here. Let's go ahead and quit this game. And yeah, it will play a lot of Atari 800 stuff pretty darn well. And let's check out the game I'm probably most familiar with. And that is Dodge Racer. This is a game that I made for the basic 10-liner competition. Oh, way back. It was 2014. And I kind of got I got third place in the least cheaty of the categories. There was since it's 10 lines of code, there's people sneaking extra code in other ways there, and I used the actual They could go like 300 characters out if they used a different different code editor, but my category was using the built-in code editor. So yeah, basically you just kind of move around this track and you dodge all of the debris that keeps popping in. On the first lap, you get 1 point for every one of these dots that it randomly places, and you get 100 points for the lap. Boop. And then after the first lap, you get 2 points for every dot it places, and 200 points for the lap. So you can kind of see how that it's kind of Pac-Man scoring. Whoops. And yes, there is actually a second map in this game. You have to get 1,000 points to see it, though, so we will not get there today. Yeah, this is basically the game as I remember it. The colors appear to be a little off, and that's why I don't know if this is a PAL or NTSC system, because they look like NTSC colors, but the blue is a little off and the green is a little off. And the sound, which admittedly is not great in this 10-line game here, it's just a little bit wonky. But no, this is basically the action, the experience of playing the game is there. And of course, I've taken the liberty of pre-favoriting this for the unsuspecting people who are going to be gifted this console. All right, let's give another game a shot here. Okay, back to menu. I think there's a Bosconian. That has to be a fairly recent game. I am a pretty big Bosconian fan, but it has a pretty unfortunate game title. So if you've been like me and you avoided Bosconian for way too long because it has kind of a dumb name, really not bad at all. It's a pretty good little shmup. Let's hit start here. Alright. I actually have a whole episode on Bosconian because I like it so much. The goal is to destroy these little bases, and you can shoot all of these little guns on the side, or you can just hit, whoop, or you can just hit the center and the whole thing will blow up. Alive. Ah. Boom. Then there's all sorts of things that can happen with the spy ships and stuff like that. That's a pretty good game. It actually ramps up in difficulty fairly quickly here. Whoops. Alive. Boom. Aww. It is fairly impressive to hear all the voice work in this version too. Ah, homebrews. Alive. Uh-oh. Okay. Let's have a look at something else here. Atari 800 has just a ridiculous number of games on it. Something like 30,000-40,000. Computers just have tons and tons of games on them. Let's see here. We'll give old Joust a try. Now, one thing that I think is interesting is there isn't actually a Commodore 64, I guess, emulator on here or anything like that. It's really just, being from Atariage, it's focused a little heavily on Atari consoles. For the record, this probably is not the best version of Joust on the system. It is, however, the one I grew up with and the one I'm probably the best at. Pretty sure this system actually has the arcade version of Joust on it. Oop, oop. Okay. I think we spent enough time with Atari here, so let's go ahead and get out of the Atari 800. Go back to the menu, go over to the side here. Just find one of these home shortcuts. And let's check out a real oddball. Let's check out the Pokemon Mini. Now, I am a big fan of that kind of micro console generation where we had the Pokemon Mini, then we had the Dreamcast VMU, and we had the Sony Pocket Station all at the same time. And the Pokemon Mini was the only one of the three that actually took cartridges. It was a bit more substantial than the other ones in terms of its ability to game. It had some neat interface options, like kind of a big C button. I should do a video on it at some time, but as far as I'm concerned, the best game is Pokemon Pinball Mini. All right. Whoop. All right. Yay. And oh, so close. And yes, I do still believe this is the best game on the system. All right, we have done probably enough Pokemoning to have a look at this here. Come on. Boom. Yay. Yeah, I think I've actually just on this video already had nearly $25 worth of fun. I guess we could look at one of the more popular consoles here. We could probably check out maybe Sega Genesis. Sega Genesis might be a good one to check out. I think I read the Super Nintendo might need a little bit of control massaging, and being that the crowd involved is into more of the older systems, probably not going to happen in the immediate future. I think I did mention that the 32X games used to run just a little bit better than they do now, and I think that's them pulling off the mighty aggressive overclock that was, I believe I read, crashing some systems. So yeah, I will put a link to the thread in the description below. Basically, you start with the firmware itself, and then you start building the card. I think the latest of the full versions is version 6, and then it's just little upgrades, and you kind of have to follow along with the upgrades, and they seem to come out fairly regularly, like once or even twice a week. All right. Well, actually, let's see what not quite running well looks like. So let's run some Doom. Now, for all I know, Doom does run well, but I don't really think so. Actually, it's not doing terrible. Where are my strafes? It doesn't matter. We're just going to quit this thing soon anyway. Apparently, I did not pick enough of a difficulty level. I thought there was supposed to be a switch. Not going crazy here. There's supposed to be a switch there that opens up this whole wall over here. Oh well. Lets me go out and bypass all this junk, but okay. Well, this 32X game's actually doing pretty good. That won't do it all. Let's find one that doesn't do good. Let's go to Virtua Racing. Back to menu. I think I have it favorited. Of course, it's my only favorite. What else would I play on the system? That's not so bad. The sound is a skosh off. But if I recall, this thing just runs a bit slow. Yeah, I can kind of hear the audio problems. I actually have the audio turned down pretty low, so it's usually pretty tough for me to hear audio things, but yeah, I can hear the audio issues. This thing could use that 1.2 gigahertz overclock to clean this thing up. Okay, so there's one that doesn't work so great. But anyway, now we've seen quite a bargain in gaming. A bargain in gaming in stock form, and definitely so with this kind of Atariage firmware in there. And I guess I'll leave it at that. So until next time, Reaper Man out.